Now, when it comes to Kendrick Lamar and the Game, well, if you are ready to see how Game is chasing more clout, and with it, he has now went from passive-aggressively dissing Kendrick Lamar in interviews to sneak dissing Kendrick Lamar on his new mixtape to now directly dissing Kendrick Lamar both in a brand new interview he did with Shannon Sharpe, but then in a way that's so direct that it's crazy disrespectful. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe because seriously, as it feels like we are really close to the tension between these two really boiling up, and just see it absolutely take over the rap game and maybe even get a Kendrick Lamar response, because Game is starting to get really disrespectful. You gotta make sure to leave a like and subscribe, because right now, Game is really enjoying this time in the limelight, and I guess because he is getting so much attention all around dissing and baiting Kendrick Lamar with all of these interviews and songs he has been dropping. And while that's been the most attention he has gotten in a few years at the very least, Game right now is leaning into it more and more. And with that, Game is really at a point where the more he talks about Kendrick Lamar and the more he disses him and tries to act like he is the better MC and that he would win in a beef, he just keeps going further and further in terms of sensationalizing this statement and getting all of the way to calling out Kendrick Lamar directly. But seemingly what caused Game to do that? Well, over everything else came from the new interview he dropped with none other than Shannon Sharpe. And with this, within the over 2-hour conversation that Game and Shannon had, where they discussed a lot about Game's rap career, and Game shared so many different stories that I don't even know if they're real or not. It really does feel like the LeBron James meme equivalent of predicting everything when this guy just talks. But when getting to talk about hip-hop, and after Shannon Sharpe asked him about the moment where him, Snoop Dogg, Corrupt, and a few other West Coast hip-hop staples passed Kendrick Lamar the torch, and then Shannon also asked him some other stuff about being name-dropped on earlier Kendrick Lamar projects, well, after already trying to put Kendrick down and again assert dominance over him and act like Kendrick is his little brother, which we can't use the clips, but Game pretty much explained this and showed how he feels by not being excited about the name drops Kendrick had in his earlier career, but saying that they were almost a rite of passage to be a West Coast rapper, just in terms of paying him respect. And so with this, after Shannon Sharpe asked Game, "Are you still the best rapper from Compton?" we do got the direct quote, and so what Game says is this: "I'm definitely the best rapper from Compton." And then Shannon asked a bigger question, who the best rapper on the West Coast, and Game said this: "Game, that's it. Can't nobody out-rap me. Anybody that knows will know because people can't. Nobody can do what I can do. Not only do I have the ability to wrap circles around people, but I am also with all the BS. I am the best rapper in this town." And with this, well, after this main quote, Game went on to explain why he is better than legends like Snoop Dogg and Ice Cube, which, like, honestly, just thinking about the grace that a lot of rappers usually have for the people that came before them at the very least, even though Game was saying that he studied Ice Cube and that's why he's better than him, just hearing him say it out loud the way he did, it does feel like a slight and just shows how severed a lot of these guys within the West Coast relationships must be with Game. But I mean, obviously, and I mean, even Shannon Sharpe, when him and his team put up the clip and pushed this everywhere, you see the picture of Game and Kendrick Lamar right there. Everybody knew who he was referring to here, and everybody knew who Shannon was trying to really get him to speak about. And while he didn't mention him by name directly here, as they were talking about him right before this part of the conversation started, well, it's obvious that Game was trying to intimidate one and one man only, and it wouldn't be Ice Cube in 2025, and it wouldn't be a newer rapper who just doesn't have the weight to really even be in this conversation, but it of course is Kendrick Lamar. And with this, and also in this interview, while Game consistently tries to little bro Kendrick, he also talked about Drake here and says that Drake is just his brother and doesn't really focus too much on the past, but focuses on him in the now, where he praises him for everything he has done and says he is so great. When you see the way that Game talks about Drake in the present and even in the future in some ways, but you see how he only talks about Kendrick within like the first 5 years of them having a relationship, You see the hater there, you see that he's jealous of him, and you see that he does not want to acknowledge and he does not want to respect, well, what Kendrick has been able to do over the last few years or so. And now here is where things start to get really bad, with the reaction that everybody was having to Game's quote. Well, it just went so crazy that it did actually drive Game to go further into these comments and call out Kendrick directly. And the reason why that seemingly is because the Drake community heard Game saying that he is the best rapper from Compton and seemingly not praising Kendrick Lamar, and they have all galvanized behind him. And this is why I was saying earlier that the game is playing is genuinely nasty, because whether he tries to act like he is directly pro-Drake or not, just by saying and doing the things that he is supporting talking points, ideas, and sentiments that then the Drake fans are pushing and even Drake himself loves, which at the end of the day is only pushing Game to be their newest puppet, as he is the one who is talking about Kendrick Lamar in a way that even Drake is scared to now. And you know, while Game says this and says that he can rap, but he could also get within all of the games, and that's why he is the best rapper in this town, and that's why he can out-rap anybody. And people were referring to his beef with Meek Mill back from the mid-2010s to try and prove that point, which, like, that was a cool moment, but it was also Meek Mill. I mean, we saw how he fared out compared to Drake, and he pretty much got his career ended for a few years by him. So I don't think that's just the fairest barometer to compare Game to Kendrick with, and it is ridiculous. But you know what? As Game trying to step to Kendrick, just hating on him the way he is, and now sitting up here with Shannon Sharpe and saying that he is a better rapper than him and disrespecting the West Coast rappers who came before both of them as well in the process of doing so. I mean, this whole thing is absolutely ridiculous, and I don't think Game realizes it because, again, he loves this sort of attention, and he has really only been able to use moments like these, whether it's with Kendrick in 2025, or the last time he was outside and the last time he had a project in 2022 when he was pushing all of this beef with Eminem and Dr. Dre. Those really just seem to be Game's main focal points, just in terms of what keeps fueling him to get more and more attention and to stay in the limelight when he does come out, and I guess when he does come out with music, just for a longer duration of time. And really, it is baffling, because Game's seemingly letting all these ideas get too much to his head, and after this interview dropped and after the reception yesterday, Game dropped a post on social media where he put up his shoes, and then he made the caption this: "Fans got a lot to say about who I can and can't rap," and then he said, "but the people y'all defending quiet. Every movie needs a trailer out on all streaming platforms now." And with this, the person, everybody, and literally the direct clip that was put up by Shannon Sharpe and the conversation you had with Shannon Sharpe were all referring to was one and one man only, and that happened to be Kendrick Lamar. And so with this, we see everything about where Game and Kendrick stand right now, one, how Game is feeling right now, two, and where he wants the trajectory of all of this to go, three. Because really, for Game to write out on social media that the guy that people are defending in this argument and debate with Game being a better rapper in, of course, Kendrick Lamar, this has been the only conversation on the timeline. Nobody has been comparing Game to anybody else. With him trying to say that Kendrick has been quiet, and you even see him put the emoji he did, which is trying to double down and echo that sentiment, Game is really thinking that he is going to walk out of this good right now. And he is really thinking that he has one above everybody right now. And he's really thinking that even with Kendrick Lamar, he is starting to assert his dominance, or at the very least is trying to give off the impression that he believes he's doing so. And so with all of this now, and even seeing within this interview that Game also tried to once again push Kendrick Lamar out of the circle in hip-hop, who was really running the game at the highest level, and then he said ridiculous things like that NBA YoungBoy and Drake are the leaders of rap, and they are the only rappers who can make people cry at their shows, and this is why. Which, like, we don't even need to talk about Drake and YoungBoy here, but it's like, have you seen Kendrick Lamar's tour? And are you willing to just face the truth? Because with all of this stuff, Game has really now gotten to a point where he has shown he hates Kendrick Lamar. He is willing to disrespect him for anybody, no matter where they have come from and no matter what history they used to share in terms of what Game and Kendrick came up on together. And with this, and by literally saying that Kendrick is quiet and he's pretty much scared to rap against Game or scared to back up the claim that he is the better MC compared to him, I mean, for Game to do all of this, it's so weird. And honestly, while you could say that it's hip-hop for Game to be competitive and be rapping like this, it's almost not, because first off, Game and Kendrick are from the same coast, and it's not like a Jay-Z and Nas thing where they were fighting for the same spot of the throne, and they are from the very same era and draft classes, you could say. But like with Game and Kendrick, they are two distinct rappers who came from two distinct eras. And usually when you would have something like this and see the lineage of what your coast is built on, and even the tree that you come from, you would want to help each other out, and you would want to create a better message for your entire coast as a whole and for the rap landscape at large. But instead, really, the only difference between somebody like Game and Drake is that both are jealous, washed up, and delusional about themselves. But the Game actually has the pen to articulate these things in a way where most rappers could be fooled by it. But for Kendrick Lamar, he is not most rappers, and he is the best rapper in the world, and it's not even close right now. So to just talk about him like this, you can't try to act like you are cool with him, TDE, or just anybody on that side anymore, because you have clearly drawn your line in the sand. Because to just talk about Drake so positively, insistently, and then at the same time you're taunting Kendrick Lamar on social media posts saying that he is scared of you, which, hey, really does feel a lot like Drake now that I'm saying it out loud. Well, overall with Game, he has put himself out as a rapper who really does want smoke with Kendrick Lamar. And at this point, no matter what happens and no matter what Kendrick Lamar decides to do, Game is going to have to face the consequences of it and stand up to his own actions and words. Because listen, while I don't think Kendrick Lamar is going to do anything urgent right now, and he's going to stop the fun he is having on his tour, or even interrupt his plans to drop music on the pace that he has already planned out, to think that Kendrick, when he does decide to drop another verse, whether it's a feature, a song, or something else, you don't think that he is going to give the Game at least one bar or one word to just let him know that you can't talk on him like this, and even just to be a quote-unquote legend within the culture and somebody who came before him and who was a part of the earlier phases in his career, to just speak on him like this as somebody who should be building hip-hop further and showing how big the genre can be when generations and people who carried the coast they are from are working together. Well, to fail to do all of that and now to stand next to Drake like he is Tupac or something, because that's really the way that Game does revere him pretty much in every single thing that he discusses about him, aside from the lawsuit, which even Game said he didn't agree with that. I mean, Kendrick has to say something and just let everybody know that really, out of all of the washed up and delusional rappers who have hated on Kendrick for his victory over Drake and for becoming something in the music industry that has been so big and so important in that #1 spot, yet he has been uncompromised in terms of how he has had to move and how he has had to do everything in terms of his relationship of being a rapper in the industry. Well, overall, you just can't talk on somebody like this, and I really do hope that Kendrick Lamar ends up responding sometime soon, because I would love to just hear him put Game in his place and really see him go into absolute shambles after that, because what else is he gonna do? But you know, what's really baffling about this and only makes it a little more complicated, well, are a few things, which just even thinking back to when the beef went down in 2024 and all these diss tracks were being exchanged, we should have known then that Game was going to make this play and he was really going to continue to go down this rabbit hole to betray Kendrick Lamar and try to belittle him, which has led all the way here to his most recent post when he ended up taking Drake's side and jumping in to try and help him as he made a diss track on Rick Ross to try and take care of that person within that major rap conflict. But you know what is still confusing about Game is that sometimes it seems like he is still trying to deceive people into believing that he is cool, maybe not with Kendrick Lamar, but his people as a whole, as apparently some of the people who are in the West Coast scene and who have known a lot of these guys to some extent are saying that Game sent both Top Dawg, who, well, is the head of TDE, and then Kendrick Lamar this mixtape before it came out, and they gave him a seal of approval, or they knew what was coming? Which, like, I know people are trying to run with that, and even if that came from the Game, which, like, at this point, if it did, from all the lies he has told on Kendrick Lamar's name, starting out with wanting to sign him, I don't know how you could believe what he says. I mean, I'm sure if Kendrick got this thing, he threw that thing right into the trash bin immediately. And you know, while people are running with that rumor, I don't really believe it at all, because I don't think this is something like the Kendrick or the TDE and Joey beef where it was a friendly competitive thing, but this is something completely different, as it's somebody who used to be an affiliate and collaborator of Kendrick Lamar and TDE, you could say as a whole, who has just turned into a jealous hater who is trying to diminish their biggest product of success that they have ever had. And so just seeing that, and then even considering the way that Kendrick's team responded to Game when he first lied in the interview he put out altogether, when that started a few weeks ago, we know everything we know, and it's clear. Game doesn't like Kendrick, he's jealous of him, and he is trying to really get off this idea that he is a better rapper, whether he thinks he is going to respond or not, which, I mean, if Game does think he is going to respond, he is delusional enough to think that he is better and that he can take him. But Game also could think that Kendrick is too busy, and deep down inside he knows that Kendrick is better than him, but if Game says this and tries to push it, since Kendrick is so busy, he's not going to respond, and then that would give Game at least the ability and leeway to say it and not get directly checked. But either way, this is just pathetic and lame, and it's just showing how no matter what you do in hip-hop and no matter who stands with you within moments where you are literally being passed the torch to carry the next generation of your coast forward, that doesn't matter, and to an extent, it's performative, because for a lot of these guys in hip-hop and for a lot of these guys in the music industry, and I mean, this does extend further, but to just keep it here, they want you to succeed, but only to a certain level, because when you get too big and you show that you are towering over everything that they have ever done, and again, in an industry that often requires people to conform and lose their integrity and just play pathetic games or follow in pathetic trends to get the numbers they want and to try and reach the status that they are chasing. To see somebody like Kendrick Lamar, who came out and played Man at the Garden at the Super Bowl, literally be as big as he is, and again, find superstardom that really does rival somebody right now like Taylor Swift while not playing any of the games and only playing his own. These guys can't handle that, and I think Game is really showing that just as much as 50 Cent did before this. And with it, I think it's safe to say that when it comes to Kendrick Lamar right now and how it comes to all of these people treating him, he really is the most despised rapper in the game by like 50% of his peers, and it's not for any other reason other than him just being way too good, and more importantly with that, way too successful. And so with all that said, let me know. What do you think about Game now really getting crazy with these Kendrick Lamar disses and pushing everything he did here? And what do you think this is going to mean for everything going forward? Do you think Kendrick Lamar is going to respond? Do you think Kendrick Lamar should respond? And do you think Game is expecting a response from Kendrick Lamar and he really would be ready to go if Kendrick did do something? Or do you think this is all performative and it's Game really just trying to promote his name, trying to push his project in whichever way he can, and he knows Kendrick is not going to respond, so he's just trying to get these things off? Now listen, if you made it to this point in the video, well, let me know your thoughts on all of that, and also while you're here, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really does help me out a ton, and I can't thank you enough. And if you want to see how in this time in hip-hop, well, before we get an absolutely amazing night of music, which is coming with new albums from Nas and DJ Premier, which I can't wait for that, but also 21 Savage, which should be interesting to see how that affects the industry as a whole. Well, 50 Cent also hated on Kendrick Lamar recently and pretty much said some of the saddest things to try and defend why Drake really lost. You're not going to want to miss this one because honestly, it's worse than what the Game said in a lot of ways. So check out the suggested video.